Global air travel across the Middle East is facing fresh disruptions as rising tensions between the US and Iran have triggered safety concerns in the regional airspace. Several major international airlines like the KLM, like Air France, like Lufthansa, have cancelled or suspended flights to key destinations, including Israel and parts of Gulf, to get a sense why it is happening and what are the possibilities and implications of this? We're given to understand by reports that aviation authorities have warned that the risk of missile or drone activity among escalating geopolitical tensions could actually endanger lives of the passengers. To get a sense of the situation, we're today joined by Augustine Vinod, Group Captain. Welcome to Mojo Story, sir. How serious is the threat to civilian aircraft amid rising US Iran tensions?
It's a great question, Zafar Bhai, and you couldn't have probably called more current guest on this issue than me because I have just returned from
Yeah,
Medina. So, starting from Muscat, just north of Muscat, when you're turning towards Medina, leaving a place called Tulbu, just short of UAE border, is where the problems are starting as far as Middle East is concerned. As the Yemeni Houthis are perennially at war with seafaring people going towards Israel. Also, Yemeni-backed people are at with war with Saudis. And
right.
apparently, recently UAE, Iran, and Saudi and Yemen, they also are in some kind of a confrontation. The issue, not many in the world is aware of, but I'm aware of two very close battles that were fought post that. As you are entering into Saudi airspace, there is a possibility, or there was an advisory saying there's a possibility of a missile attack, GPS jamming, GPS spoofing. So these are the issues that is faced by the world today. For many, many months now, Zafar Bhai, you will not believe it, no aeroplane is flying other than probably some friendly nations, very friendly nations of Iran. No aeroplanes are overflying Iran at all, especially to the eastern part of Iran, which is where most of the air defense missiles are. Why? Because most of the silos as well as under the ground storage facilities are in those mountains. I'm talking about south of Caspian Sea, south of Georgia. So that is the area where maximum air defense missiles are. If you remember, I think it was in early 2000, by mistake, one civilian airliner was shot down and a lot of people lost their lives. So to avoid such a scenario, most countries, most airlines, most aviation authorities are now advising people not to fly in those areas or not to operate in those areas, basically to sort of nullify the possibility of you getting shot down. Another issue, Zafar Bhai, is very, very important, is you have something called PDR, predetermined route. Along the PDR, aeroplanes fly and they are identified. What happens is when sometimes due to weather, the aeroplanes have to deviate from the route, basically to save the passengers, save the aeroplane, not to get into a crash kind of a situation. They do deviate. But the problem is when you deviate outside the PDR, then if another nation is not aware that you have deviated, you become a hostile kind of a target or an unknown target. And if you get misidentified, like in the early 2000s when USS, one of the US Navy boats or Navy frigate shot down an Iranian airliner, misidentifying it as a military aircraft. So that possibility always exists,
Right.
which is the reason why I think many flights are getting disrupted very badly. Also, the reason, like in yesterday, I believe where you are from, Srinagar flights were cancelled because of western disturbance. Pakshimi Gadbadi isko hum kehte hain,
Yeah, yeah.
because of western disturbance. So all this is adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
So that is the reason.
And are there any specific threats of missiles and drones to commercial aircraft? Because generally the target is the military aircrafts, but the commercial aircrafts have shut the operation. So, what specific threats do missiles and drones pose to those aircrafts?
Wonderful question. As always, you are always on the money, on the point. See, military aircraft sometimes shadows a civilian aeroplane. So um, the civilian aeroplane will never come to know that somebody is shadowing them. Basically, what you do in shadow is you come under the civilian aircraft and stay very close, as in few feet from the civilian aeroplane, just below, so that when in the enemy radar, you are not painted as two different targets, but you are painted as one single aeroplane. In that scenario, if the your enemy, that the fighter aircraft's enemy, identifies or he already has an information that you are shadowing and you are coming for a very critical mission against them, then what happens is the civilian aeroplane can, I'm not saying it will, can
Yeah,
become a cannon fodder.
right.
In that case, the person firing the missile may say, okay, if I can sacrifice 200 people at
Hmm.
the cost of 2,000 people on the ground, then might as well sacrifice 200 people. That's a very, very high possibility. Otherwise, specifically, you don't say, okay, I see so and so will be targeted. Specific threat is not there. This is a very high possibility when someone does shadowing. Over to you.
Right. And what protocols guide airlines when deciding to suspend or to reroute their flights?
Three reasons. Very good question, as always. First reason is when you're circumnavigating to from place A to place B, you may not have adequate fuel to reach there. So you will have to cancel that flight because your aeroplane is not capable now in a circumvented path to reach that destination. For example, Delhi to say Tbilisi.
Yeah.
In the winter times, it becomes very, very tight. You
Yeah.
are, gasping for fuel. You may not reach there. Second reason is you may not have very good relationship with that particular company. For example, India going from India to somewhere, say in Georgia, or going to Kyrgyzstan, or going to Kazakhstan. We are not able to do direct flight because we are not overflying Pakistan. Pakistan is not overflying India. Some other
Right.
country may, they do. Air Astana flies, whereas Indian carriers and Pakistani carriers don't overfly each other. And the third and very important reason is threat. So, what kind of weapon is deployed there? What kind of threat perception you have? Because civilian aeroplanes, Zafar is a sitting duck. When any missile comes towards them, they can do nothing about it. They will have to just lump it. So, depending on the threat and the threat escalation matrix, some airlines or some country may say, okay, you don't fly in that zone. These are the three reasons.
Right. And there have been incidents in the past. What lessons from past conflicts still shape, airline safety decisions today?
The biggest lesson is don't fly.
Right.
The biggest decision is don't fly in that area.
Yeah.
So that in the yesteryears did not happen. Yesteryears, people pressed on regardless. Today,
Yeah.
you are taking informed decision. You are taking into account what your country is telling you or advising you, or other countries are telling you and advising you. And the travelers themselves are today asking questions or not traveling in that flight. So all put together, it is a very well informed, connected world where you're taking informed decision. Earlier, चले जाते थे लोग.
Yeah.
Missiles. Sometimes I have heard stories where missiles were flying left, right, and center, whereas a civilian flight just went through. So,
Mhm.
so पहले जमाने में होता था. Nowadays, it is a very very professional way of handling by airlines and countries.
Absolutely. I know we have discussed it in the past, but how disruptive are these closures to global, aviation industry and to the supply chains? We discussed in a different context, though.
True, true, true. I will repeat it because people may not have seen that particular program. See, an aeroplane is like like a cycle chain. If one
Yeah,
chain gives you trouble, the entire cycle gives you trouble. Entire drivetrain gives you trouble. For example, we were discussing. Suppose an aeroplane is going from, or a flight is going from Heathrow to New Delhi. The local flights of America might get affected for a simple reason. The same from, say, an American Airlines, which is flying from Heathrow to Delhi, is further going on to San Francisco. If it gets delayed, the connecting flights from San Francisco to Interland also gets delayed, affected, cancelled, etc. Or they may have to give another aeroplane to the traveling passengers. And this happens like it's a cascading effect. Sometimes the cascade, depending on the disruption, can take as much as 3 to 6 days to get normalized. We saw that in recent times when we had this Indigo
yeah,
chaos that happened because of whatever reason. It took long time for things to stabilize because it doesn't stabilize as we think कि एक झटके में stabilize हो जाएगा. No, because the more the aeroplane stays on ground, less the money the airlines earn. They want the aeroplane to be up in the air at all times. So some of the low cost carriers, the turnaround time is as low as 30 minutes. So if you're 30-minute delayed, you're 30-minute delayed for the entire day because आपके पास गुंजाइश नहीं है. You don't have the cushion to control this delay. So that is the kind of cascading that is happening today because the world is flying. People who have never flown are flying. So flying has become a household name, which wasn't so when you and I were young. I remember
yeah.
going, boarding a civilian aeroplane. I was already a squadron leader, and I had 3,500 hours of fighter flying under my belt. I had never sat in a civilian aeroplane. First time I sat in a civilian aeroplane when I was squadron leader, and that too I couldn't afford it. So someone sent me a ticket, and I went.
Right.
So yes,
So it takes a lot of time to put the things back on track after those disruptions. As always, so great to have you on our show and explain the things in such a simple and easy way for us and for our viewers. That's all the time we have on our show. Thanks so much for tuning
thank
in
you.
and for watching the Mojo story. Thank you.